Welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, RJ Carbone. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA. Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Let's get to it.
Anthony for three. Bang! That one goes down, and the game is tied.
I'd like to take this chance to apologize to absolutely nobody.
The Yankees are champions of baseball.
Shaking and baking right here on the neophyte.
You guys trying to close the show. She was doing a great job of feeding that. It's over.
Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks? Don't you regret not coming to the Knicks?
Game over. World Series over. Yankees win. The Yankees win.
All right. Well, three in a row. 3 in a row overall for the New York Knicks. 3-1 on the homestand. You know, that Chicago loss should have been a win. But finally, for the first time this season, it feels like the Knicks have gained a little bit of traction, gaining some type of rhythm. Do I want to sit here and say they're starting to put it together and this is going to be the run? You know, you played the Nets and the Wizards. But you're seeing some good things. The offense has been consistent all season. We'll talk about that. The defense has picked it up lately, which is not ironic that you're starting to win games when you start playing defense. The rotation, we'll talk a little bit about that at the end of the show. The Knicks are starting to play better, and it was good to beat this Wizards team who are just a terrible basketball team last night. But you did what you were supposed to do, and the Knicks win 134-106 at the Garden to wrap up their homestand. The first half of this game, a lot of pace, especially in that first quarter. A lot of great ball movement, which was the theme throughout the night, which we'll get to. Second half, the Knicks kind of just put their foot on the pedal and ended this game. You know, so you could even argue they could have, you know, if they weren't playing defense, the Knicks probably would have scored even more points. But yeah, the first quarter, every starter got on the board early. It started out where they weren't playing any defense at all. The Wizards were 100% on their first few baskets. I want to say 3 or 4 shots in a row. But then they started bricking, they started airballing, and they missed 5 in a row. The Knicks go on this 10-0 run. You know, Josh Hart then gets it going with a couple 3-pointers. The Knicks get an early 9-point lead. OG Anunoby a little later in the period with a 3-pointer, and then he answers that with a steal, and he throws down a slam dunk off the steal with the Campaign assist. You know, Campaign knocks down a couple threes in the first quarter. Towns chimes in from 3. Brunson, and the Knicks are up 40-27 after 1. Second quarter, every Knick gets on the board, starting and bench. You know, Pacôme Dadiet with a couple early 3-pointers. We'll touch on him. Jericho Sims with a crazy poster midway through the period. That puts the Knicks up 23 points. It's 73-54 at the half. And then the third quarter comes. The Knicks put this thing to bed. They go on a big run early in the period. OG Anunoby, couple consecutive baskets midway through. Then he almost gets a poster himself. Throws down a dunk off of a cut. But he doesn't convert. Gets fouled. Knocks down both free throws. And then late in the third quarter, kind of the icing on the cake, the nail in the coffin in my opinion, when Brunson comes in and he knocks down back-to-back 3-pointers. The third one being a 4-point play in which he converted to put the Knicks up 34 points, their largest lead of the night. They go into the fourth up 109-75, and the fourth quarter was pretty much mostly garbage time. Tibbs empties the bench right away, but they initially let up, I think, 10 consecutive points. So Hart comes in the midst of that for Jericho. A few minutes later, he calls a timeout. OG Anunoby comes in. You were hoping you didn't have to see Brunson and Towns return, and you didn't, because they even things out after the timeout. Campaign gets hot again. Of course, Tibbs is still screaming on the sidelines, which is just always a funny. The guy loves to win, and I love that about him. But the Knicks pull away and win this thing again, 134-106 at Madison Square Garden. And let's start with the guy who hasn't exactly been himself all year, but needed a big performance, and he came through with a very strong one last night. Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson last night, 26 points, 11 assists, 0 turnovers. Love that ratio. 9 for 15 shooting from the floor. He was 5 for 9 from 3 and 3 of 3 at the free throw line. Yeah, man. What else? He was great. I like the ways he was scoring, attacking the basket, driving closeouts, driving through the outside hip of his defender. His first basket of the night. It's a tough drive left to finish around Carrington. Second quarter, he's got a nice step back after driving left. On George's outside hip. 3-pointer. Nice to see that make its return. That's a shot that's not falling as consistently this year for him. But 5 for 9, I'll take that. His first 3-point bucket of the game. Pulls up off of a Towns high flat screen. Knocked out a transition 3 after that. He had a couple spot up 3s in this game. Knocks out a 3 off of a Jericho high screen that he ends up flipping. Brunson comes around it, pulls up, knocks it down. Just in multiple ways, using screens, rejecting screens. He likes to do that. Attacking switches very well last night. But not overdoing it, right? Passing out and not just mismatch hunting off the switch. Realizing, much like Towns in the game prior, when he has the matchup. I thought Brunson's floor game, as it's been lately, was excellent. He was getting everybody involved. He had 11 assists. The Knicks had 37. And that's, again, we keep reiterating this. We say it all the time. But this is what, if the Knicks eventually win a title with this group, it's going to be because of this offense, right? Because of the passing, the spacing and shooting, the cutting, the gravity that certain guys have. It's the best Knick offense we've probably ever seen, whether you're 20-something years old or 80-something years old. You haven't seen something like this offensively from this team. It's a completely new dynamic. It's streamlined. It's modernized. It's got the upside to compete with Boston and the offense of Indiana, and maybe even better than them too. It's because it's more, you got a modern day big. You have a weapon at point guard. You've got 2 wings who can shoot at an elite level. The improvement has been remarkable. They were a good offense last year. They were top 5 in offense, I believe. But something about this offense, not something, but it's in the numbers. Like the improvements in the numbers. Despite being a very good offense last year, they were 29th in assists. This year, they got the number up to 9th. Last year, they had 10 games with 30 assists or more across the entire 82. This year, they've already got 7 games with this much in 14. So, for a team that used to be so reliant on second chance and offensive rebounds, now they're doing it in a much more sustainable way, right? Through their half-court sets and not just off broken plays and not just, I said last episode that the Knick offense is very heliocentric. I don't want to make it seem like, because at the end of the day, they built this team to fit Brunson, and that's what the definition of that is. But at the same time, it's not like, I'm not trying to make it seem like it's just going to be Brunson isolation, which so many times last year, that's what it felt like. It was only Brunson. But this year, I mean, the ball movement, again, 9th in assists. It's the off-ball movement. They were 22nd in cut frequency last year. They're 11th in that category this year. The spacing on the floor. Remember the first half of last season, the Knicks starting lineup consisted of Julius, RJ, and Mitch. 3 guys in your starting 5 who cannot give you anything outside the 3-point line. So you've replaced that type of spacing with this clogged paint. You replace that with Anunoby, Towns, and Bridges right next to Brunson and Hart. That's a massive difference. A lot of this, the off-ball movement, the ball movement is allowed because you've got the gravity of Karl Anthony Towns playing center at the 5, right? He's at the 5. He's able to draw help, which allows others to cut off of him. And he's done a great job all year of finding those back cutters, especially against those switch everything defenses, which is going to be very important for the Knicks to not just mismatch hunt, but to cut off those switches, to make the defense have to commit to more than just one simple decision. All right, we'll switch this, that's it. No, but to make them make multiple decisions if they're going to switch you. So that's where this starts, in my opinion. It starts with having a guy like Towns at the 5. It opens up everything else for everyone else. So that's the big key. And again, there will be times, like Precious is probably going to be back within the next couple of weeks. When he makes a return, there will be some lineups where Towns is used at the 4 for defense, and you have those double post lineups. But I'm assuming, I'm hoping, rather, that it's just going to be sparingly, right? They're going to find times for it, maybe certain matchups even, but primarily for this whole thing to work, it's going to be with Towns at the 5, because you want to be able to maximize Brunson, to maximize this offense. Leon Rose and the Knicks, they invested too much in this roster turnover over the last calendar year to not emphasize what makes this offense run. So I just wanted to give this half-court offense a shout-out, before we dive deep into this episode, because it's just been so remarkable and such a fun watch. 134 points. I don't care if it's against the Wizards. It's impressive. Now, you do want to see this offense do this against, again, those defenses that have the personnel to use their wingspan and switch on you. I get it. But if there's one thing I'm confident in, it's going to be this offense. My concerns about this team are obviously on the other end of the floor. But the offense, I don't think, has ever been something that's really concerned me. So that's just phenomenal. One thing that does concern me offensively is Mikal Bridges' above the break shooting. And this is something we have touched on before. I want to bring it back up because last night he was 0 for 4 from 3. 2 of them were misses on the elbows. The corners are falling for him this year. He's 47% on the corners. That's on 45 attempts. Great. Elite. Fantastic. His above the break shooting has been very poor. He's just 17% on 42 attempts above the break. So that's anything that's not in the corners. That's the elbows, the top of the key. Last night, well, first of all, he's historically been accurate above the break. He's been consistently in the 33% to 37%-ish range year to year, which above the break, that's good. So hopefully that's something that corrects itself as time goes on here. But, we are, again, we're in late November now, so we're still waiting for it to show up. We're about a month into the season. And, watching him from above the break, it's been ugly. It's the change on the mechanics has definitely impacted the way he's shooting. And in the first quarter, he takes a three on the left elbow and he front rims the shit out of it. And then the fourth quarter, I believe it was, he airballs that one from the right elbow. It gets nothing but the front of the net. So that's a little scary because, we just spent a few minutes talking about how great the floor space has been. If this remains an issue for Mikal Bridges and we're in the middle of the season, I think you're going to start to see defense adjust, and defenses are going to start helping off of Mikal Bridges and helping on to Brunson pick and rolls near the top of the key. And that starts happening, and now you're talking about addressing that issue, and maybe do we have to remove Bridges from the starting lineup and go with McBride? Because the whole point of this assembled roster was about, again, prioritizing space for Brunson. This whole 5-out idea. But at the same time, you start removing Bridges from the starting lineup. Now the optics look bad because he traded a treasure chest of first-round picks for him, and now he's on the bench. Like, they need him to start connecting on those elbow threes, on those threes above the key. That's got to come. So I'm a little bit concerned about that. We're in late November again, and it's still not dropping. 17% on 42 attempts is an ugly number. Hopefully that starts to come around. Hopefully the shot mechanics aren't the driving factor behind these misses, because it's very hard to change your shot. It's got to take time. If you don't want this to become a mental thing, and he's got to try to RJ his way through it and go to the shot doctor mid-season and try to change things up, because that just fucks everything up. They need him to start knocking down those above the break threes. That's it as far as Mikal goes. Everything else, I've liked what I've seen. The mid-range game has been fantastic. And the defense is coming along. He's getting over the top of screens much better. I like the way he's contesting. Even when he gets beat, he recovers and gets back into the play. He's been better defensively lately. The one big concern is just the shooting, on the wings there, and above. So we'll see where this ends up. I just thought I should bring it up. So we're going to head to a quick break, guys. And when we return, I want to hand out a game ball to somebody on the bench. This could go in many different directions, but I figured this guy deserves it most. So we'll get to that as soon as we return in a few seconds here on BD4 episode 747. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey there. Thanks for listening in so far. If you enjoy this episode, please give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. And if you're on YouTube, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much.
Okay. Welcome back to the show, episode 747 of BD4. The Knicks beat the Wizards 134-106 at the Garden last night. Brunson leads the way, but I thought among the second unit, I thought the best Knick was Jericho Sims.
Bing bang.
You could look at a few guys. Pacôme Dadiet had a great game. Campaign was fantastic. 5 for 6 from 3, scored 17 points. He was a close second, but a lot of that did come in garbage time, and I thought Jericho Sims had his best game yet. The numbers, with Jericho are never going to jump out at you. 7 points, 7 rebounds, 1 block. He was a plus 13 in 19 minutes. But the eye test, though, he's passed the eye test the last couple of weeks or so. He checked in late in the first quarter last night, and I thought as soon as he did, the Knicks started playing better. The tone changed defensively for the better. We've continuously discussed his switchability on pick and roll. His quick feet, the lateral movement, his wingspan against those pick and roll guards makes him an easy switch. You don't have to play in drop with Jericho, which is very refreshing. When Cat comes off the floor, having somebody like Jericho who can play and defend like a guard, it's big. And the numbers, they don't lie to you. The Knicks metrics have been good with Sims on the floor. And that's because of the defense he's been providing. With Sims on the floor this year, opponent offenses have a 119. I'm sorry, that's with him off the floor. Let me reread that. With Sims off the floor, opponent offenses have a 119.0 rating. With Sims on the floor this year, opponent offenses drop to a 110.6 offensive rating. So that's a difference of 8.4 offensive points. That's an entirely new ballgame when he's on versus off the floor. And it's because of his versatility. Because he's able to guard down and switch off the screen. 8.4 is a big number. Minus 8.4. That's his on-off offensive rating of the opposing offense. For context, that's second best on the team to Deuce McBride. And if you want to look at the position, when Towns is out there, the Knicks are 6.7 points worse. So you're talking about minus 8.4 with Sims and plus 6.7 with Towns. That's a huge difference in the defense. That's why this guy remains in this rotation as the backup big. I know we love Huck Porty, but Tibbs likes the high floor that Jericho Sims can bring you. He knows that at worst, he's going to go out there and just be survivable for you. You'll be able to survive those minutes. Where Huck Porty, he's got more upside, for sure. He's more talented, yes. But he'll make the rookie mistakes. He'll hard hedge every single pick and roll and get beat in the second half of a game against the whoever that was a couple nights ago. The Nets. With Sims, there's a floor there. You're getting somebody who can eat 15 minutes. But he's been playing well. He remains solid. The rebounding was good. I thought the screening was very good. He clotheslined the shit out of Carrington last night. That was like a football highlight. It almost reminded me of that Ryan Clark highlight when he was with the Steelers. It was very similar. Just, oh my God. Go back and watch that. And then you talk about highlights. The first quarter of the game, he has that highlight poster dunk, where the Knicks are coming out of a pistol set, campaign DHO to Brunson, Jericho pick and roll. Jericho flips the screen on the Brunson pick and roll. Brunson makes the pocket pass on the roll, and then Sims throws it down on Kyle Kuzma's life. I mean, the crowd's going insane. The bench's reaction was cool. Brunson's reaction, the camera paint to him, and he's just like in awe. Really cool. Awesome highlight moment for Jericho Sims there. The crowd, not the crowd. There was a fan in the crowd. I saw this clip on Twitter after the game, where one of them after the dunk, you could hear him chirp, "I still want Huck Porty." So, no, but it was an awesome highlight. Jericho Sims with a Blake Griffin-esque dunk where he almost it might have not even been listed as a dunk because he just throws it in there. But it was an awesome moment. So yeah, man, that's good to see. And you talk about, the Knicks fans wanting to see younger players get a shot. Well, hey, Pacôme Dadiet played a little bit last night, and you know what? I like what I saw, man. He's been giving you a lot more than I thought he'd give this team in his rookie year. I didn't think he'd be featured as much, so credit to Tibbs there. I know part of that's because of injuries, but he's looked pretty solid. He's a connector on offense. He seems to be in control of the game well. He's got a good feel out there. But you're talking about a guy who could become maybe a rotational player in the near future. You know, this is a 6'7" wing who can shoot. You know, he's from what I'm noticing so far, he's definitely more comfortable in spot ups than he is off of movement. Definitely not a guy who creates his own shot either, but you know, there's upside for him to be a 3-and-D wing because I know the defense, like listen, there've been some defensive breakdowns and some miscommunications for sure. Even last night, a couple possessions in a row in the second quarter where Dadiet screws up a switch on a basic pick and roll with Josh Hart. Hart comes over to talk to him after. But the upside's there for sure, defensively. You know, he's got very quick feet. He slides his feet well. He can move well laterally. He's in the right spot. He's got a lot of wingspan. So he's going to be switchable for you. And that's just, if you could shoot and you could switch the pick and roll on the other end, you know, modern NBA, you're probably going to have a spot on a rotation somewhere. So hopefully the Knicks can hang on to this kid and maybe he can become a part of this team going forward. We'll see. You know, Tibbs, he likes his veterans. When Precious gets back and eventually down the line when Mitch gets back and, you know, Deuce McBride, I'm sure, is going to come back sometime during this West Coast trip. It's going to be hard to find minutes for this kid, but we'll see, man. Eventually, I'm thinking he's going to carve out himself a role. Depending on what Tibbs does with this rotation, right? If he expands it a little tiny bit, then maybe you see Dadiet in the future. But hey, the minutes police, I don't think they have anything to say after last night because Tom Thibodeau actually handled this rotation, the second of it back-to-back, pretty well. You know, Karl Anthony Towns, who had himself a great great return from the injury with a double-double, played less than 25 minutes. So that's great. Brunson only played 30 minutes. You know, only one Knicks starter played 35 minutes in Bridges. You know, overall, Tom Thibodeau ran a 9.5-man rotation out there last night. You know, so that's kind of important when you consider that they're heading out west for a 5-game trip. You know, that's going to be a big test coming up. Huge test. You can beat the Nets, you can beat the Wizards, but I really want to see the Knicks do some damage on this West Coast trip. You got Phoenix, Utah, Denver, and Dallas. Then you head back to the East Coast to play in Charlotte after that. But you finally got some type of traction here, a little bit of rhythm, but now you're playing against much stronger competition. So, you know, I'm looking at things like, can they be an adequate defense against some of these high-power offenses, right? And can you be a high-power offense against some of these defenses, right? I know Dallas has a solid defense. Phoenix, not as bad as I thought it'd be. So we'll see coming up, man. I would like to, on this West Coast trip, so the 4 games that they have against the West Coast teams, I would like the Knicks to, can you do 3-1? I mean, that would really start getting me confident again. So let's see what happens. Let's aim for 3-1. Let's start getting some traction here and start catching up to 1-2 in the Eastern Conference. I know that's going to be tough, but right now the Knicks are 4th. It's Orlando in front of them, and then Boston, and then first place is obviously the 15-0 Cavs, who, you know, maybe this will come back to bite me, but I'm still not very scared of as a Knicks fan. They kind of remind me of the Twins to the Yankees. Knock on wood, Lord. Anyways, that's all. We're going to get to our break, our final break here on the show, and then when we return, we will wrap this up with our trivia question, and that will be that. Stay with us here on BD4. We'll be right back in a minute.
You can follow us on social media as well. On Instagram, we're at BD4Pod and at Rob J. Carbone. On X, we're at BD4Pod and at RJCBD4. And on Facebook, we're BD4. If you're interested in our website, just go to www.bd4blog.com. You can subscribe to our blog on there right on the front page. Just like on the podcast, we cover Yankees, Knicks, and MMA. Also on our website are the links to the different platforms for the podcast. Thanks so much.
Studio 69 Productions is a podcast production agency created by Leo Rodriguez to allow content creators to market their podcast. It's an online platform that will market your podcast or any other project that you're working on. Get in touch with Leo Rodriguez from Studio 69 Productions. You can find Studio 69 Productions on Instagram at Studio69NJ. Studio 69 Productions, where dreams are heard and born.
Thanks for listening to BD4, where there is no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We also do MMA, Yanks every series, Knicks every game, and MMA on occasion.
All right. Welcome back to the show. Episode 747 of the podcast. You are listening to BD4, where there's no better way to get your Yankees and Knicks analysis. We do Yanks every series, Knicks every game, MMA on occasion. Share these episodes on social media with your friends, family, whoever. I appreciate it. We are on all different platforms, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can listen and watch. We've also got a website. If you go to www.bd4blog.com, there are the links to the podcast on all those platforms on that website. You can go visit my blog, which is on that website. I write articles from time to time on the Knicks and on the Yankees, and I have an MMA article on there from a couple years ago. It's been a while since we've wrote about it. But I do want to get some more MMA on this podcast. It's been, I don't know, maybe a year, maybe a little less than a year, I would say. It's been a while. So I would like to start talking some more MMA. I've just been busy, very busy with the Yankees, with the Knicks. Now the Yankees are in the off season, and if there's something that goes on with Soto, I'm sure we'll have an episode out on that. So it's hard, but we're going to try to fit it in sometime before the year ends. Talk about one of these UFC pay-per-views or a fight night or something. But kind of going off track. Let's get to our trivia to wrap this Knicks episode up. Okay, so for this episode, our trivia question of the day. When was the last time the Knicks and Wizards met in the playoffs? And I have a hint. They weren't the Washington Wizards then. All right. So when was the last time the Knicks met the Wizards in the playoffs? Hint, they weren't the Washington Wizards then. All right. So one final time, your trivia question for episode 747 here on the podcast. When was the last time the Knicks and Wizards met in the playoffs? And your hint is that they weren't the Washington Wizards then. So that should help you with. If you just give me the decade, I'll give you the answer for that. I'll give you I'll give you that. So let me know. That's it, everybody. Appreciate you all tuning in. Episode 747 in the books here, and I will see you in 748, where we're hopefully talking about a big Knicks win against a very potent Phoenix Suns team coming up tomorrow night. So I'll see you then. 747 in the books. I'll see you in 748. Later. This episode was brought to you by Anchor.
Hey there! If you stayed the entire way through, we thank you immensely for it. We hope you enjoyed this podcast and that you come back for the next episode real soon. Don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, Download these episodes and share them with your friends as well. BD4 is a 5-star podcast simply because of you. And we'd like to keep it that way. Have a wonderful day. Go Yankees and go Knicks.